A Democratic Party that is on a bit of tenterhooks tonight, a little excited, a little curious, everyone watching their phones because Hillary Clinton, in today's modern era, has said, as we've reported, she is not going to simply announce her pick. She is going to text her pick. That is not new in the sense that a lot of campaigns do it, but it certainly reflects her desire to grow her text message base. We're going to bring in Democratic strategist Steve McMahon, also on the phone Casey Hunt from Philadelphia, who's covering the upcoming DNC convention. Steve, starting with you, like you, of course, I'm reminded of the Miley Cyrus lyric, if you mean it, I'll believe it. If you text it, I'll delete it. Who doesn't remember that famous line? And the idea there being that if it's really important, you'll say it, you'll meet up about it, you'll call, you won't just text it. This flips that on its head, and basically, as you know, as a campaign strategist, you have plenty of people who might support your candidate. It doesn't mean you can reach them all, and getting their email or their text or their contact information is key to a modern campaign. So walk us through what she's trying to do here and what you think of who her pick might be tonight.
Okay, so first, what she's trying to do. She's doing exactly as you suggest. She's trying to connect with as many of her supporters as possible so that she can begin a conversation with them and get them more engaged and involved in the campaign. And hopefully, I think over time, getting a lot of those people to contribute and to participate, engage their neighbors, and run the field operation that was so effective for Barack Obama. One of the things that they found during that campaign was that the neighbor-to-neighbor contact, when people went and asked 2 or 3 of their friends to come out and vote, was actually more effective than the television commercials and all the traditional campaign things that you see, like signs and other things. So this is smart, modern campaigning, and it's exactly the kind of campaigning that Donald Trump's campaign doesn't seem to be doing.
Well, I think that's fair. I mean, Donald Trump's campaign came late to that. They're very good at what is called earned media, getting TV newsrooms and other folks to jump on everything he says. But the social media part, he's retweeted, sure, but Casey Hunt out there joining us by phone, it's certainly the case that Donald Trump hasn't built as big an email list or a text network, although they may be trying to catch up on that. What are you hearing, though, about the pick itself from your reporting tonight?
Hi, Ari. Well, forgive me. We are on the plane about to head out to Miami for this event that she has planned with whoever her nominee is going to be. Right now, all signs point to Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. He, of course, has kept carefully to that schedule that he's had all the way along today, fundraisers in Boston and then in Rhode Island. So we're looking to see if he is about to head out on his way to Florida, but at this point we don't know that yet for sure. I've been covering Kaine some in recent days, and he definitely seems to have a spring in his step, like he knows something that maybe we don't know, and that he's happy this time that he maybe hasn't been passed over. Of course, he was vetted in 2008 by Barack Obama and was passed over, and that, of course, at the time was very disappointing to him. But he's the kind of person who checks all of these boxes that Hillary Clinton's campaign has been talking about all the way along. And one of the critical ones in the final days of this has been national security experience. Kaine can claim national security experience on the Armed Services Committee in the Senate. And with all of these, we saw again today with what happened in Munich, with all of the terrorist attacks that have been happening around the globe, the incidents here in the United States as well, the attack in Orlando, really has the Clinton campaign focused on making sure that they don't leave any chinks in the armor on national security, making sure that they're especially, there's concern about Ohio and Pennsylvania in particular, and blue-collar, basically white working-class men who maybe wouldn't be willing to or would feel nervous about voting for her if, in fact, this pick went another way. And the Clinton campaign has been holding focus groups around who to pick for their vice president. That's definitely something that's come into it. The other person who's been at the top of the list, Tom Vilsack, the Secretary of Agriculture, former governor of Iowa, who also has been keeping to his own schedule today. So it's, we're just hopefully, we think any minute now, we could get that text to find out what's going on, Ari.
Thank you, Casey, and stay with us unless you get booted there for plane reasons. I mean, Steve, what Casey's speaking to is you know, Tim Kaine's, his mood, his look. You know, we don't have a body language expert booked.
Right.
Maybe that's an oversight on our part. But if he's looked happy for several days, good for him. And yet, for those who've studied him, and you've been around him as a long-time, you know, Democratic strategist, he's a pretty cool cucumber. I mean, he was a governor. He's a senator now. He's considered moderate, I would say, not only in ideology. If you look at govtrack.com and some of those sites that pull all the ideology together, and those are just rough models, but he's over in the center right of the Democratic Party, not the far left. But then there's also the fact that he's moderate by temperament, right? I mean, tell us about the man as you know him.
Well, you're exactly right. He's moderate by political affiliation. He's moderate by temperament. He's one of only 20 people to have served as mayor, governor, and senator in the country today.
Yeah.
He speaks Spanish. He almost became a Jesuit priest. He went to Harvard Law School. He's got experience on the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Foreign Relations Committee. He's worked on counterterrorism issues. So he has all the things that you want in a safe, steady, reliable, dependable kind of choice.
And yet, as you say that, I'll cut in to say, you know, you describe that, and anyone listening who didn't know him after you just read that resume might think, God, he sounds like a little much. He sounds like a class president type. And yet, when I've followed him, in the Senate Club and the School of Governors and all these types of people that you cover, on that scale, he's just pretty mellow. I mean, he's not a cocky type.
You know, you sometimes refer, or I should say Trump supporters sometimes refer to him as a blue-collar billionaire. Tim Kaine is the most even, humble, kind, thoughtful, considerate man. He was also, by the way, DNC chairman, which gives him a political sense that some of these guys don't have. But I think he's the kind of candidate who enables Hillary Clinton to kind of win this where it's going to be decided, which is in the middle. Donald Trump, you know, by picking Mike Pence, chose to try to solidify the right wing of his party. He ran a convention that was basically, you know, an aggrievement kind of a convention where he essentially tried to stoke grievances that people may have. And he's not exactly reaching the middle of the road swing voter that is going to decide the election in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and everywhere else in this country. Hillary Clinton has an opportunity with this pick of Tim Kaine, if that's what she does, or with Tom Vilsack, to kind of reach across the middle and try to win this thing where it's going to be won. I will say this about Tom Vilsack, who goes back a long, long way with the Clintons. They love him. He delivered Iowa for her this year. But he's from a state with a Republican governor, which means if he were the vice presidential nominee, I'm sorry, I was thinking he was in the Senate for a second there. I don't know where that came from. But he's from a state that has a Republican governor. That's a swing state right now that both campaigns are going to target. And he would be somebody, if she were to select him, who probably would put Iowa up in the blue column instead of the purple column, which would be good for her campaign.
Right.
So I wouldn't count him out at this point.
Right, and those go to the political calculations that are always on the board if you're thinking about the different states. Steve, stay with us.
I was thinking about Cory Booker there for a second with the Republican
Jersey.
governor.